Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. What does it take to build a career you love? Passion, curiosity, and relentless drive. Today's guest, Kay Adams, has all three. She's the host of FanDuel TV's daily morning show, Up and Adams, where she is joined by current and former players and other celebrities to talk about the top storylines in the NFL. She previously was the host of the NFL Network's Emmy-winning morning show, Good Morning Football, and also served as the host of People Magazine's syndicated TV show. But if you think it was easy, think again. The daughter of Polish immigrants, Kay learned the value of hard work at an early age. She worked various part-time jobs to pay for school, including bartending at a sports bar and working for a local country music station, despite not knowing anything about country music. Yet she parlayed those part-time gigs into bigger opportunities. In our conversation today, we talk about taking risks in your career, the power of your network, and betting on yourself. Let's go. This is my conversation with Kay Adams. Kay, what were the biggest influences on you growing up? What shaped you into who you are today?
You know, I'm the youngest of three. I would have to say my big brother. I work in sports, and I'm sure he's very jealous of that, even though he doesn't admit it. He still never, totally tells me that he's proud of me and does a good job, but I'm always looking. I'm like begging him to sort of validate me in that way because he was 2 years older and we came from an immigrant family. And, growing up in Chicago, we went to Chicago public schools our whole lives. It was very much about how do we fit in? How do we Americanize? My parents were holding on still. My parents still really hold on to their Polish roots. And so how could we zig and zag? And he was older and he was, a football, basketball, baseball loving boy. And I just wanted him to think I was cool. So anything he was into, Star Wars, X-Men, I could tell you, I could name every X-Men ever in any comic book because that's just sort of what we were into. So I would say my brother still drives me. And I think he was never easy on me. And nothing I ever did was that cool. And so I am constantly motivated by him still. I should probably talk to my therapist about that, Molly.
Well, hey, I grew up with twin brothers that were 5 years older than me that beat me up all the time. And they treated me like a little brother, not a little sister. And I remember when they would wrestle with my dad and I would jump into the pile and I would get within 2 or 3 minutes, I'd be crying, crawling out of there. And my dad used to.
You're better for it.
But I was better for it. And my dad used to say to me, look, if you choose to jump into the pile, be ready. And he didn't feel sorry for me. So I'm sure you were the same way, which is so fun. I connect with that. And your parents, I've heard you talk about your mom and dad and their work ethic. Get me inside of that and how that shaped you.
It completely shaped me. And I catch myself now and some of these moments that I get to have are the people that I get to meet or sit down with. And it's hard because my parents, they were born in Poland. They came over here. They still when I say mom, I interviewed Tom Brady. Tom Brady
Right.
knows people. It doesn't really resonate with them because they, even though they moved to Chicago, they always sort of kept in the bubble of the Polish American community. And their banker was Polish. We went to Polish school. I was a Polish Girl Scout. I was a Polish folk dancer. Like Molly, literally all of the things. But they left, a bad situation in Poland where they had a loving family, but they wanted a better life for themselves. And they took a huge risk. And it's the true American dream story of them coming here for a better life, living out of a suitcase, living with people that they don't even know to sort of try to make it. My dad became an American citizen. That really meant something to him, watching him study, hear those stories and all of that. And my dad worked at a factory, same job, putting screws together for 43 years. And then he retired. And my mom similarly worked in factories and cleaned houses and from very humble beginnings, they wanted a better life. They were so diligent about it, and they never complained. And as a kid, you don't sort of recognize it, but the osmosis of that certainly exists. And I have a million pinch me moments now that I
I
think
bet you do.
I would never have if I didn't grow up with them sort of leading the way on just work, shut up and put your head down.
Grind it and love it. That's awesome. How'd you break into the sports industry?
Molly, it sounds so wild, but it sort of grabbed me or something. That's the best way I can describe it. I always knew I wanted to be in media, at the time on television, of course, because I would look up and see, E! News red carpets for the Oscars and the glamour of that and asking people questions on live TV. I would try to get in front of a camera as often as I could. I was, the star in the school plays. I was always, the first one that wanted to be interviewed or wanted to, I remember trying out for Home Alone 3, and my mom's like, "You're not an actress. We don't have the money to take pictures of you. Like, this isn't happening." And me like finding a way at like 8 years old to get downtown and get in front of them. And I almost got the part. And I think I lost it to like Scarlett Johansson or like they energized me in such a way. And I think, Molly, I never had a fear of being on camera. It always is the most confident I have ever felt is that hour a day that I'm on my show Up and Adams now. Like I'm good. Anything can happen and I'll be okay. And that's something that I've always felt. And I always wanted to do the entertainment news Today Show sort of angle with morning news. And for some reason, when I went to college at Mizzou, I had to pay for it, so I would work in sports bars, and it was great money, and I was great at it, and I would bartender or cocktail waitress, whatever it was, and I would just talk to these guys about sports, literally, all my regulars at a happy hour. I'm giving them $2 pints of but whatever it is, and I'm looking and I'm like, this guy's not as good as you think he is, and guys would be like, yeah, 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 or whoever my regulars were, and I got a lot of confidence out of that because I wasn't afraid to say what I was thinking, and I got good at it, and it eventually one thing led to another. And one of my regulars gave me an opportunity to come on and start talking about my takes on, or not really my takes, or just come hang out with us on the radio for a couple of minutes. And someone else heard that. Sirius XM then heard that, and they were launching a fantasy sports station. And I was like, sure, I'll take this gig. They paid me like 20 grand a year. And it just kind of happened that way.
You were raking it, girl.
Yeah, I was living at a bar.
This was a regular at the sports bar that said, hey, you've got a lot to say about this. You're good at it. Come jump in on this show in this conversation with me.
The first thing that happened was it's important to know people. And that's something that I wish I could do over again in my whole career. We can get to that. Like I was not like the networking. I'm not a networking gal. I'm not a know everyone schmooze. It's a really powerful tool that I would give anyone advice. That's probably the first thing that I would say, like be open to all of that. So I'm a bit of an introvert. It's just not my thing. And I met a couple of girls. One of them was leaving a job at a radio station. I'm talking Jefferson County, Missouri.
Right.
Country king. And she got me a part-time job from midnight to 6 a.m. at this country radio station. And of course I walk in and I'm interviewing for the job, and the program director says, do you like country music? And I, totally. Yep, a big fan. And she goes, really? Who do you like? And I was like, completely lied. I absolutely lied my way. I said, I'll learn it in my head. I said, I'll be okay. And I got that job. So if you can imagine 3 a.m. when you're trying to find your Folgers cup because you're almost falling asleep on the radio while you're listening to Brooks and Dunn and Honky Tonk Badonka-Donk.
Oh my gosh.
There were guys in the ESPN booth next to me that I would just talk to, literally in the break room. And they gave me my first injection. And then they would come to the bar. And then once one of them got this job on Sirius XM, he said, I think you should come in and I have a small role on this show. And that small role led to another job. And I literally at one point, I actually remember this very well. It was the World Series 2011. I had just gotten this job with the St. Louis Cardinals by knocking on every door in St. Louis to just get on the air. Give me a microphone. Somebody give me a microphone. And they did. And it was my fourth job in sports in 2 years. And I thought to myself, oh, wow, okay, I guess this is it. Sports has sort of taken me. And then it took me out of St. Louis to New York, but with NBC Sports Radio, wanting to do updates. And it's pulled me all, and I've tried doing the other stuff. And it's crazy to get to a point, Molly, where you your whole life want to be Julia Rancic on the red carpet and And then you get to do it, and I did work for People magazine, and I loved that experience, but it wasn't as rewarding as sports is. It just isn't.
Well, it's interesting. I represented Aaron Andrews as an agent for years who transitioned from sports to entertainment. Is that something that still tugs at you every day? And is that something that is in the horizon for you maybe one day?
I took a job with People magazine for the sole purpose of seeing what that would be like to do the everyday entertainment cycle and seeing like what stories are important. And part of, I've done appearances on shows and e-news, and it gets a little hard to come up with what's your take on this Taylor Swift thing? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. Like, I don't really care. So it's a little less compelling. Like sports are, there's so much gravitas to it, and it's socially really impactful, and I'm not saying pop culture isn't. So I'm definitely interested in dabbling in that. People magazine was incredible because you get one-on-one time with A-list superstars who are really hard to get bites out of. It's really hard to get moments out of those sort of people, so the challenge is what I really like and appreciate, and I like to be very uplifting. I attack my job positively on the air. I don't want to get anybody in a bad spot or put anybody in a corner. If there's room for that in the pop culture world, I'd be there in a second.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. That's cool. What you do and have done, it takes a lot of hustle, grit, grind, right? I mean, and you've just described some of that, but maybe get people inside of it now in your world today, because I remember with Erin, so many people thought at some level, she's so pretty that, boy, that helps her a lot. But I used to see the work and the reading and the prep and the grind, and is so much more, of course, than that. And I always kind of had her back and said, no, you don't understand how hard she works. And you are the same. Get me inside of what that looks like for you today.
It's so funny because the what you're saying about Erin, like she's so good at what she does, and it was I don't know when that was that you were with her, but I imagine that would work against her and a little bit, and it's almost a challenge to because you can't be both, Molly. You can't be attractive and brilliant, like it's not, and she is, and so it was also at a time when everyone saw her like that world. Everything now is splintered. Very few situations where everyone and she was this thing in this incredible moment. It almost doesn't exist now to have everybody's eyeballs every week on Saturday with NFL or ESPN or college or whatever. So it's truly incredible. Now it's such a fun time, I will say that, and it's challenging because everything is saturated. It's splintered. There are so many different ways of people to grab attention, and hot takes are really interesting, and that's certainly a way to go. But I tend to be more positive. So the challenges I come up with and the challenges that I have are, how do I create positive content about these stories that I love? I'm naturally curious. It's why I'm good at my job. And that makes it a little bit easier. But the challenges are there. And the challenges, right now is I came from NFL Network working for the Shields, and it's, not the hardest thing to get access or information or research or see what the workflow might be. It's set. Whereas now I'm at FanDuel TV, and I decided I'm going to go do my own thing, and with their support, and they're so open, and it's an open world in front of me. So managing a startup, and it hasn't even been a full year yet, and we've done pretty great, which is great. And that there's challenges in that because everything's moldable. It's what you want, and certainly, a startup is always going to be a startup.
And what fun, though. And I love your approach. Some would listen and go, wow, she's really been at the right place at the right time, married with grit and ambition and a desire to go for more. Where do you think your confidence came from, right? Your confidence when you're delivering these beers to these regulars to sort of make comments like that, your confidence to listen in on the ESPN booth next door. Where did that come from? Because that feels like that, married with your curiosity, has probably had a lot to do with where you are.
Molly, if I could figure that out, I would be unstoppable. Like I will just say that if I could somehow bottle up the confidence that I have when those lights go on, and sometimes I'm not the most prepared, And I can go in there and it's almost like somebody who's like, I'm a great test taker too. I don't know if it's a high pressure situation, I rise to the occasion. If something goes wrong, I've been on the air when the unfortunate event of an NFL owner passing. I've been on the air when crazy trades have gone on. I've been on the air when things glitch. I mean, like I said, I'm working with a startup right now. So there's a lot of like fun in that I really embrace. I really feel like when I'm on the air or working an event or covering something or interviewing someone, I truly feel like I'm the best at what I do when in that situation. There's no one better at handling this moment or this live thing than I. And that's sort of what I just tell myself. Now when the lights go off is where I'm doing work. I'm trying to become more confident outside of this skill that I seem to have. I think part of it's maybe when I'm in a conversation and it's about the other person and I know what I'm doing, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm so in the zone. My head isn't in my phone or what someone's thinking about this or how I need to figure this out or what my next goal or challenge or accomplishment is. It's just and that really might be part of it. I'm present. I'm very present when I'm doing something on the air. And if I could apply that to, and that's a beautiful goal for myself. If I can apply that sort of presence to the rest of my day and my life, then I would run the world.
Well, maybe you need to, start meditating, right? I mean, that's what they say. Well,
that's what they say. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say that I've given full effort, but like I'll be in a yoga class, but I'll be like looking around or, I'll be making my grocery list in my head. Like I don't know. I don't have that gift.
Sure. Well, it's an unbelievable gift that you have the ability to do that. It's remarkable. It's obviously been a big part of getting you where you are today. And you spent 6 years hosting NFL Network's Good Morning Football. Was it scary at all, right, to step into the unknown when you made the decision to leave and to step into your world now?
No, because I didn't know what was ahead for me, but I knew about a year before I left Good Morning Football that I just felt like I had done my work there. And it wasn't like something where I felt like I was exhausted from it, or it's just, I was at a point of, do I want to sign up for another 4 or 5 years of this, or do I want to see what else is potentially out there? And, NFL is an incredible partner. I had a deal from them that we were working on. I would love to do what I do with my FanDuel deal and NFL simultaneously. There's a couple hangups and issues there between the two existing the way I want them to, but I'm being patiently aggressive and trying to make both of those happen because I miss it. There's the live events, like the energy of it all. Not the Good Morning Football part, but just the working for the NFL media group it's a blessing and an honor. So I'm so happy to be doing what I'm doing here and I'm getting a daily show. And like Molly, like in this business, unless you're really by yourself, like nobody's letting you do whatever you want, right? And not that I'm getting to do whatever I want, but the bandwidth, the freedom to sort of play around. I had an American Idol person on today. They're like, okay, like, but we're sort of figuring out and molding our identity as a show, and the patience that they're giving me and the support to do that is really incredible. And what I just thought, like, this is where the future of the industry is going. It's, cable is doing its thing and live programming is obviously where I want to be. I want to be, front and center at an NFL game. That would be a dream for me. But I love my show. I love that we try a bunch of stuff and it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it gets better and greater every day.
You've got a startup mentality, a startup mindset, don't you, inside of you? A little bit of that burning desire to embrace that vibe, if you will, because it's different.
I like to build. So if you look at Good Morning Football, granted it was on NFL Network, which has incredible infrastructure and has been around a long time and has the support of the league, which is great, and a true support of the league. Like it's incredible. Good Morning Football was this show that came out of nowhere where they said, we're going to take this show and we're going to put it in New York, not LA, which is where everything NFL is based. And we're going to say, we're going to bring this girl in and these 3 guys, and we're going to do this whole thing. And we were flying by the seat of our pants. We were building the plane as it was flying. And that's exciting.
Yeah.
And there's something about seeing progress that is really appealing to me. I think I feel the most confident in my life when I'm seeing progress. And when I'm not seeing progress or it's leveled, I get a little insecure. So I like when things are constantly getting better and to be able to look back and say, man, nobody even wanted to give us a chance. And then the second I left, or I won an Emmy and then we left, we wouldn't get nominated year after year. And then finally, so that's sort of, it was a beautiful ending to an incredibly valuable chapter.
And it sounds like that desire for progress, that desire for growth, that curiosity, that's something that you look for in an environment that you're in. But Kate, also sounds like it's the way you're wired, right? That you wake up every day with a desire to get better. And that's something I have always found with the best athletes, coaches, broadcasters, which is awesome.
I think you're in a battle against yourself. And I don't know if it's healthy. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's not about the competition.
It's not about the competition. And I actually think it's sports media is really progressed in that way, where shows are supportive of each other, even on other networks. There's a lot of, as I told you, it's all splintered. So it's not like, the Sharks versus the Jets, West Side Story. Like it's not like that aggressive. It's much more collaborative. There's a lot more bleeding over into each other's shows and networks and partnerships. Even the way I think, women support each other in the sports world is something that everyone's proud of. And it's really a beautiful thing. And so I've never, it's not about comparing myself to other people. I definitely compare myself. I compare like, oh, what guests did they have? Oh, I want to do better. It's motivating. It doesn't hurt me, but I do compete against myself all of the time.
How do you navigate career opportunities, right? In other words, how do you determine what to say yes to, what to say no to as things come in?
It's always a big discussion. I'm an overthinker. So I will go through, every pro and con list and ask every person in my phone, whoever the barista that made my latte 5 nights ago. I'm like, what do you think about this? Should I take this opportunity? I'm mostly a say yes to anything person. And I think that very much comes from my upbringing. I think it comes from, load your plate and finish it all. So I've always taken as much as I can handle. I've always put work first. Not wise, but I definitely have always put work first.
Do you still?
Little less now. But when I'm 25 living in, St. Louis, or even when I moved to New York, I was, working doubles at the bar, working there from 5 p.m. until 3 a.m., cashing out the register at 4, and then getting to the ballpark at 9 to do a Cardinals game for $6, and then going and doing radio somewhere. And I would drive, I would do anything to my plate it was all work. It was always all work. And different jobs, internships, like whatever I could get my hands on. And so it's hard for me to say no to opportunities, but I definitely have, especially recently in the past couple of years. I definitely have passed on things that I don't find rewarding. And then, then you see the other person that, does that job, and you're like, oh man. And then there's definitely an overthinking process when I should have done that. But you can't live that way.
Well, and that feels like that probably comes from your upbringing, in the sense that, gosh, I mean, when you were 8 or 10 or 15, if somebody said, hey, you're going to be here, and it's hard to say no sometimes when you thought, gosh, I mean, I can't believe all these things are coming at me. And it's interesting. I always think that when you say no, you're saying yes to something else.
That's a great way to think about it.
It's a mindset shift, I think, that can be really powerful. In other words, when you're saying no, you're saying yes to maybe something that you already decided prior matters more.
That's really well said. I'm going to take that with me. Wow. Church of Molly. Take
that with you, girl. So with Up and Adams, get me inside of how you prepare.
I have an amazing staff, a lean, mean group of hungry producers who took a similar risk that I did, right? The great unknown. It's not launching a show, it's launching a channel. It's launching, it's a tech company that is doing very well and is the number one leader in the sports betting industry, saying that we want to go in on content. We want to make this spend and this commitment here. And so I didn't have a total hand in putting the group together, but I right away went and got one of my, you're only as good as your team. So I went and was happy to welcome a producer that I had with me all along the way from day one at Good Morning Football, who eloquently helps me craft takes and is all hands on deck. Shout out Matthew Hamilton. And he, puts the rundown together. And I have incredible segment producers who we then delegate. Oh, Rob Gronkowski's on. Why don't you take that? Why don't you take that? And we sit in this room that we're in right now and we pitch ideas. Hi, Tucker. We pitch ideas and sort of put the show together and have our 5 things we know that we want to ask them. It's a very heavy interview based show. So I like getting information. I'm not the kind of person who wants to talk for 3 hours a day, which is an incredible skill to be able even to want to do. That would be insufferable. So I like as many guests as possible and getting to know them, their stories, creating moments is sort of what the industry is right now and what I like to do. So that's a beautiful, beautiful thing that exists that I just want to, I want to take a 22-year-old draft pick whose life's about to change. And I want to introduce some part of the world that needs to see some part of him. And I think my biggest win is, when you have like a Rob Gronkowski come on and everyone thinks he's this, character, and to get like a serious, meaningful moment out of him, like that's what I'm after. I'm after like, what can't people get out of you that maybe I can try to weasel or, uncover something or flip a bit of a page there. So it's 24 hours, right? It's a news, it's a news cycle. Yesterday we're talking one thing, today we're talking Aaron Rodgers. So you just have to be on your feet. Otherwise I would literally be bored. I would be so bored if it wasn't like that.
In my days as an agent, I had 300 athletes and coaches, and people would say, gosh, every day is the same. When they're getting hired, fired, released, traded, called up, called down, injured, healthy, it is, as you just described, a fire hose of change constantly. But Kate, you seem like such a cool person who is humble and really authentically wanting to bring out the good in other people. And so I can imagine you build rapport quickly with the Gronkowskis and folks that come on. But if you had to sort of describe to people how you build that trust, which appears to be authentically, you do it by being exactly who you are and having fun and being real. As I think about people in the world, building trust and doing it quickly is a really powerful thing. How do you think you do it?
I think I've established it through my run at Good Morning Football, which is one of the things I'm most grateful for. Just there was never an energy of, oh, let me have my guard up like it's Kay. It's more like Kay's, I was the little sister, approachable person. I think I just sort of, it just fell that way, or maybe that's just my personality. The challenge is the younger players, or like the players that are just coming in. Like that's always interesting to be like, oh, you don't, let me make you feel comfortable. So I think I always just feel, how do I want to be interviewed? Mm-hmm. It's just that simple. It's the golden rule, right? It's just, what would I want to be asked? I'd want to be asked, what I'm doing. That's great. I want to be, do I have a charity that I'm supporting? I would love it if somebody asked me about the good I'm doing, like that sort of. So that's what I sort of defer to establish that trust. But I think being fair, and everything that I've ever said, at least in the sports based, and it's opinion based, of course, but I rely on what's real. I rely on numbers. I'm a big figures gal. I love a chart. Well, these are his numbers. So you tell me. I lean into the facts. I feel like that's the better way to go. I'm not looking to, create a crazy take. I'm more looking to, well, did you think about this? I did. Or like, what, I'm more collaborative, I feel like, with my audience than that. It's all networking, honestly. Like that's what it's become. And that's what I've noticed. When I fronted the show on NFL Network, Molly, I was more, people are going to see, I'm on TV for 3 hours, it's 3 hours in the morning, and then it repeats. So it's 6 hours. Like, you see what you get. My work speaks for itself, but so much of it is building relationships. And that's probably the biggest advice that I would tell myself 10 years ago.
I love what Holly Rowe said. Holly Rowe came on the show and she said, my job is for people not to interview me, but the answer from the person that I ask the question to. In other words, it's not about me. It's about the questions that I ask and the things that I can pull out. And if everything goes right, they actually won't even remember it was me that asked the question.
It's so funny because that's something that I probably didn't have when I started my like Good Morning Football, and that was probably the biggest stage that was definitely the biggest stage that I had ever been on. And, there is a part of you that's like, I want to make sure that my voice is heard. And and there's like something that, the competitiveness or but when you sort of settle into it and you gain confidence, and that comes with reps. It comes with reps. It doesn't come from outside validation. It comes from just feeling good about your work, uh, and practice and just getting better at it and seeing progress, like we talked about. Then you sort of realize, oh, wait, like the way that I look good, like literally the only way that I look good is if he says something awesome. And that's what makes a brilliant host, someone who's really invested, someone who listens, and someone who takes themselves out of it. And I won't say that I've always been that way, because I definitely have been like, hi, I'm here with like, making
Sure.
my whatever. But then you
Right.
sort of realize that it's the kill, the win, like what you're after is something entirely different than like your face being splashed on something.
Sure. And that's anchored in humility that you clearly have, which I'm sure is
And security.
for sure being comfortable with yourself. So let's talk. I mean, here we are, right? Two chicks in sports. Talk to me. How has it been for you as a female in the sports space?
I never had the kind of job where I've had to be in a locker room or, I've done my share of, shoving elbows and trying to get my microphone where it needs to be and seeing some of that, but I've been more in the studio space where I'm not in these huge areas or these huge, sort of situations where you get to work with a lot of people. And I think one of the words I would use is a little isolated. Like it's a little isolating when you're a studio host or your studio personality, because for the longest and still, and it's something that is being worked on, it's there's one woman and all men, so it's one, at least is on air. So like I would love to have had in my career another woman's perspective on a show that I'm on, or on a panel that I'm on, or on. So I think there's a little bit of loneliness, because like you might see each other like in the hallway, like, oh, you're hosting the next show, but there's never
Connection.
you know, it's never connection. But as time has gone on, that connection, like via social media, via just outreach, via Twitter, and like just, like supporting one another, then that has definitely improved. And I only say that to say like the network exists now. And so that has been great, because I think, there is undeniably a network of men in sport, people in sports who help themselves out, and it's a connection that exists, and it didn't always, I think, exist for women, for coaches, for agents, for people wanting to get in the space. I mean, my experience as a woman in sports has been, I have a lot of gratitude. I focus on doing my job. I don't love talking about it, because I don't think I don't know, I just think it perpetuates a story. At this point, it's normal. At this point, Nicole Lynn is bringing in the highest paid contract for Jalen Hurts, the highest paid player in NFL history. It should be, Sam Rappaport, who runs inclusivity and diversity for the NFL. She's someone I really aspire. That's somebody who inspires me right now. She's incredible. She does great, incredible work. And I've asked her, like, I struggle with this. Like, how do I celebrate women doing these incredibly badass things? Because they're hard, right? Like, they're hard to do. How do I celebrate that without burdening them, or without being like, let's make her look different? This is, with so that my niece who's 6 can be like, that's just, I can do that. That's a normal thing, instead of being like, making it stick out, which sometimes isn't beneficial to someone who just wants to do their job and coach a running back group, right?
I found being a woman sort of a secret weapon as it relates to the ability to connect in a way with athletes and coaches that was different. Have you found that as well, as it relates to connection and rapport?
I would be lying if I didn't admit that I knew that I was scarce, and that I was more almost recognizable, because I stuck out. So there's a lot of men in the landscape of sports media, a lot of men walking around Super Bowl and like, I'm one of a few. It's just the numbers are true. So I, in that way, I always, on that set where I'm with three men, I stick out. And there's something to that, right? That distinguishment. But I never really played into it. I really just tried to focus on putting my head down, and I don't know if it was naively done. I mean, all those things exist, of course, but I thought if I just put my head down and work harder than Jim to my left and Gina to my right, like I'm gonna get the job and I'm gonna get my work done. And I will say there are fine lines being a woman in sports. It's that don't exist for men when it comes to the way you dress, the way you present yourself, being, you can be assertive, but don't be aggressive, don't be demanding, don't, things that all of those things exist, but focusing on them, I just never did it. I never really focused on it. And so much incredible work is being done as far as inclusion. We're not totally there yet, but there's people that I really believe in up at the top. Sam Rappaport of the NFL being one of them, who runs inclusivity, diversity. I champion her and I'm inspired by her every day. And we are in good hands. And women have taken it into their own hands in this sport to network, to have moments for each other. I mean, I'll tell you, I was at Super Bowl this year, and I was Patrick Mahomes' marketing agent, Jacqueline Dahl, kind enough to invite me to a women's power brunch. There were dozens of tables. People, I never knew something like this existed. And this is 2022 when this was or 2023 when this was happening. And I was so blown away. And I was like, yes, this exists. Like this has to happen like this. And then you're meeting people and networking with people. And that is so important because there's this web that exists predating the prominence of women in sports that needs to be broken so that when a choice is being made about who's going to take the spot, go for it. And we're seeing that more often. So I tried not to focus on it because, to say I've had, a lot of wonderful men believe in me and collaborate with me.
Me too, girl.
And
Me too.
motivate me and champion me. And the best thing that they did was to never look at me and say, you're a woman. There was no distinguishment. And that was the highest praise, just to be seen as someone who wants to do their job well.
So, you're talking about late nights, bartending, sleepless nights practically, Kay. I mean, you grind, girl. Get me inside of how you manage your energy, how you take care of you to have the kind of energy and focus that you need to perform when the lights go on. Or is this a side conversation that we need to have because you don't?
I moved across the country. So back in New York, I had a bit more of a routine. Granted, I was on the air for 3 hours compared to 1, but this move to FanDuel has really opened me up to do other things. I'm getting to do commercial work. I'm getting to host other stuff. I'm getting to, I'm actually weirdly busier than I was when I was doing that job. And so managing my time, not my number one skill. I wouldn't say I'd win the all pro label for time management, but I try to prioritize my energy on the show. I need to give it that hour, even if I'm not feeling great. I have worked through a kidney stone. I've worked through crazy things. I had surgery like the day before a show once. I'll never tell that story. Only Matt Hamilton, my producer, knows that story. Migraines, that kind of stuff, deaths, all that. And that's like not a mentality that I am proud of anymore. I think I was really proud of like perfect attendance record. Like I'm a gamer, I'm a grinder. And now I'm more balanced a little bit. And I am more in charge of prioritizing my energy when it comes to my personal life, when it comes to health, when it comes to taking a hike. So Molly, I'm an introvert by 100%. I do not get energy from other people. I'm depleted when I'm in a room or having to schmooze or to a dinner. I need to recharge my battery. The only way that I know effectively how to do that is to spend some time with myself. And it is earphones in, podcast, or it is writing my thoughts down, or it is taking a hike. No music, listening to music, whatever. I need a minute. I'm the kind of person who needs a minute. So once you learn that about yourself, and that, that's hard to do because unless you're incredibly introverted. Like when I was in college, I'm like, I want to be a mover and a shaker. Because you sort of felt like that's what everybody does. Everybody goes out. Everybody does this. Everybody's social. And I'm very social. I need a minute. And I now take that minute for myself, and I'm a better person for it.
Are you intentional about scheduling time to protect that space for yourself?
I'm more interested in creating rituals for myself. So I am more interested in setting aside time where I know I will have the New York Times crossword puzzle. And for this hour, that's what I'm doing. Like buzz off everybody. And so that's what I do. Or I know that on this night is the night that I am going to go take that walk and then cuddle up and watch Succession on Sunday night. So routine has really helped me be intentional about my time. And it's hard to have routine sometimes in the business that we're in, but you sort of have to demand it of yourself.
Yeah, that's amazing. Good for you. I mean, that is so important. What NFL off-season sort of storyline are you most intrigued by?
I would say the Aaron Rodgers one, which I think, even though he's a Jet now, is going to be a storyline that follows us all off season, how he'll be introduced into the New York media market, which I believe he will thrive in and eat up with a spoon and love it. And how, they have some of the best odds. You go to FanDuel Sportsbook right now, those Jets are looking pretty good to win the entire AFC, which is crazy. So to watch, I have a soft spot in my heart for these quarterbacks that were quarterbacking when I started watching football, right? So like I grew up with Aaron Rodgers. When you see the Phil Rivers, when you see the Big Bens and Eli's, when they walk away, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm old. Like this is not what I want. You guys have to play a much longer time. So Aaron Rodgers is one of those, guys who's holding strong.
So I want to end with some rapid fire, Kay. You ready?
I'm ready.
I know you like it when the lights are on.
Let's go.
Let's hit it. What's your most memorable sporting event that you've attended in your career so far?
The 2011 World Series Cardinals World Series win, only tied with the Patriots win over the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. That was
insane. What's your favorite NFL stadium?
What a hard question. Lambeau.
Who's the guest that you haven't had on but you really want to have on?
Charles Barkley. He's a FanDuel family member. Come on, Charles.
He doesn't get out of bed for nothing, less than $1 million. Good luck, Kay.
Yeah.
But he is a blast. He's a blast. Good for you. We got to make that happen.
Yeah, let's try.
Let's go.
Okay.
What about Shaq?
I would love Shaq. I would always welcome Shaq, but if I would say it's a toss-up between Charles Barkley and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So now you pretty much know what Up and Adams is all about. Two of the most random names on a football show, but that's what I want.
Hey, we'll see the ratings skyrocket when you get those two. That's awesome. Those guys are awesome. What's your way too early Super Bowl prediction for next season?
Oh my gosh, Molly. I'm going to say the 49ers are going to go to the Super Bowl, not the Eagles, and they're going to face the Cincinnati Bengals.
Let's go. Little Burrow in there.
Sure.
I see how you do it. What would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self, be kind to yourself. You pick yourself apart, you idiot. You are amazing and strong and capable and enough. You be kind to yourself. And also, when someone invites you to something, maybe go once in a while. Maybe take that lunch. Don't be isolated and closed off. That's what I would tell myself.
In the last year, what's a new belief or behavior or ritual, to use your word I love, that has most improved your life?
I would say a new routine. I'm trying to read a little bit more, which I never really had time for because I was so in the NFL world. I'm reading this book called about blue zones right now, about places to live and happiness, and I'm very interested in longevity. So this book by Dr. Peter Attia about, I think it's called Outlive, and it's about practices that you can make and changes you can make to live a better, not necessarily longer life, but just a better life. So reading and being more present.
Well, Kay, I've decided I'm going to live to be about 120. I had Mark Hyman on my podcast, and he talks about that, living longer but living better, right? Because aging's a disease.
What does he say?
He says we can do it. I mean, there's all kinds of things now that we can be more intentional about to help us live longer and live a healthy longer. Not live to be 120 but not be able to do anything, right? But to live. So it's possible, girl. I'll send you a link to that podcast. You dig it.
I've just seen like my parents are in their mid 70s and they've lived the life of a 97-year-old. Like that's not fair. They didn't take care of themselves. They didn't have what it takes to take care of themselves. So The idea of being 90 and feeling like I'm 60 is what I'm after.
All right, Kay, so I'm going to finish with one quick question. The show's called Game Changers. So who or what is a game changer who inspires you and why?
I'm going to say that my game changer is, oh my gosh, who should I pick? Amy Howe, the CEO of FanDuel, because she is a engine. She is an absolute engine and one of the most hardworking people, one of the most universally respected people in this business, up against all the big boys. And she is in those rooms doing amazing work, supporting, bringing women up, and really leading the way for what's the future of sports. I don't know that I've ever respected someone who I work for more. So she is an absolute badass. Amy Howe, shout out to you.
Yeah, Amy Howe. She sounds like a rock star. I love it.
Molly, we gotta go have drinks with. She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing, and she's in charge. Yeah.
Yeah, she's the boss woman like you. Kay, super fun. Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks, as always, for listening to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. There you can listen to previous episodes and leave us a review, which helps other people find out about the show. This episode was edited and sound designed by the team at Sound On Studios. You can find out more about their work at soundonsoundoff.com. Check it out. For more about me, visit mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be bold.